All right, class, let's get going here. Topic, Napoleonic era. We've been covering the French Revolution, 1799-1815. Napoleon took control of France. Our essential question, how did Napoleon gain enough power to rule as an emperor? Now, Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Corsica to an Italian family. He was a military genius, especially in the use of artillery. Child of the Enlightenment, associated with the Jacobians, and rose in rank quickly in the French army. So as the French proceeded through the French Revolution, there were many opportunities for him to move up in rank because the French were fighting against many other forces during this time due to the French Revolution. Now, the Consulate period, 1799-1804, took power on December 25th, 1799, with the Constitution giving him supreme power. As first consul, Napoleon acted more like an absolute ruler. He was the last and most eminent of the enlightened despots. Now, reforms. During this time, you had the Napoleonic Code. The Napoleon Code is something that Napoleon put forth. He really tried to make some drastic changes in France. Legal unity provided first clear and complete codification of French law, perhaps the longest lasting legacy of Napoleon's rule. Many achievements of the revolution were made permanent: equality before the law, free religion, property rights, the freeing of the serfs. Women were given the opportunity to have inheritance laws, so when if their husband died, then they could inherit their property. Citizens could rise in government jobs, not just through nobility. Amnesty to more than 100,000 people who had fled France during the Revolution. Now, religious reforms. The Concordat of 1801 made peace with the Catholic Church. The Pope renounced claims to church property taken during the Revolution. Napoleon put in clergy that were loyal to him. Legal toleration to all religions. And this was the beginning of like civil rights for religious movements. Replaced this revolutionary calendar, which was quite crazy and something that, you know, if you take a look at it, you're like, that's really a calendar. And then they went back with the Christian calendar, which made much more sense because the rest of Europe was on the Christian calendar. Now, more reforms. The Bank of France was established in 1800, balanced the budget. They had a sound currency, stimulated the economy. Education reforms was based on a system of public education under state control. So this is the first time that in France you had public education that really moved forward and tried to get everybody in school. Police state, thousands of citizens were subject to spying. Those old and loyal to the king were watched closely. Now, Napoleonic Wars. The War of the Second Coalition, it's from 1798 to 1801. Napoleon had his navy destroyed by the British at the battle by Lord Horatio Nelson, the Battle of the Nile in 1798. Even though the navy was destroyed during this battle, he still won the overall war. The Treaty of Luneville of 1801, French had won the war and acquired land in Germany and northern Italy. The British stood alone against the French for most of this period. So it wasn't until a short time later that you had the British and then the Prussians and others all ganging up on the French. Now, the Empire period, 1804 to 1814, was all about war. December 2nd, 1804, Napoleon crowned himself as hereditary emperor. And this was largely in part because they wanted to squash any kind of royalist movement to bring back the monarchy. He was the emperor, and that was taking the place of the monarchy. Napoleon saw himself as a liberator for people around, from these absolute rulers. And so when he went into different countries and they had absolute rulers and people didn't have very many rights, he saw himself as liberating the people. Beginning in 1805, constant warfare. Napoleon had the largest European empire since the Romans, but did not last very long. Many appointees to other kingdoms, so like his brother, his sister, his cousin, they were all put in charge of areas like in Spain, in Westphalia, present-day Germany. So there were many, many people that were associated and there were relatives of Napoleon that were ruling throughout Europe. Many satellite kingdoms introduced factors of the French Revolution, so then the ideas of the French Revolution began to spread. Kingdoms were supportive of Napoleon at first, but repression turned most against Napoleon in the long run. All right, remember, history's no mystery. Take good notes.